inside imperfect competition. As I told you in the beginning, we'll be focusing primarily on perfect competition. Okay. In the last slide, I told you there are large number of buyers and sellers in a perfect competition market setup. Okay. And they are actually very small. All of the buyers and all of the sellers. Sellers particularly are very small. They cannot affect how the price is determined. They cannot, let's say, वो अपने मन की नहीं चला सकते. They cannot charge the price whatever they want. Due to the demand and supply forces of that perfect competition market, the price will be decided. Okay, and sellers in a perfect competition market setup are called as price takers, that is given to them by the demand and supply forces, and quantity adjusters, that means how much quantity they will have to produce. That is to be decided by them. Obviously, nobody can force you to produce this amount or that amount. So this quantity deciding factor, what is the factor that decides quantity? A producer will produce that quantity of a good, which is a producer will produce that quantity of a good which will give it maximum profits. Okay, profit maximization is his objective. He will produce that much of quantity of a good which will give him maximum possible profit, and that quantity will be called as optimal, or you can say optimum output. There are actually two ways of finding how much for a producer, how much a producer should produce. That is, what is his optimal output. There are two ways. First way is TCTR approach, and second way is MCMR approach. First, we will go with what is TCTR approach. The two terms that are written here, TC and TR. TC is total cost incurred by a producer to produce any level of output, all the costs. Alright. And total revenue is the money that he will get by selling the output that he has produced. Alright. So what is the profit? Profit is the money he is getting minus the money he is spending. That is, total revenue minus total cost is his profit. Alright. There is a note in the red line. You must focus on it. This is extremely important. As the price is decided by demand and supply forces, or simply to say demand curve that is downward sloping and supply curve that is upward sloping. Wherever they intersect, that much is the price decided by the market. Alright, and at that price, any producer can sell any amount. What amount? That will maximize his profits. That amount he is going to sell. He is not going to sell any less, any more. Naturally, this is natural for us to produce that much quantity of output which will give us maximum possible profits. Alright. So, as I told you, total revenue, the money you get minus total cost, is the profit. So, how much should you produce? As you see, there are two graphs on my left side, one on the upper side, one on the lower side. The x-axis of both the graph is reading quantity. You can see here quantity. X-axis reads quantity, and the y-axis of the upper graph is reading cost and returns, or you can say revenue, and the lower graph is reading profits. Alright. So as you can see, the total cost curve, you must revise the cost curves chapter before you can understand this. This is how the total cost curve, the green line, shows how the total cost curve behaves as the output increases. Alright. And the red line you are seeing, it is a very straight line going upwards directly. It's not changing its slope, nothing. Why is it so? Alright. It is so because the price of the good remains the same. You can sell Q1 or Q2 or Q3 or any further. When the quantity is being multiplied by a constant number, the graph for it will be straight line going upwards. Okay. So as you can see, by comparing the upper and the lower graph, let's say we are producing quantity less than OQ1, let's say this much of quantity. Alright, at this much of quantity, the price, the total cost, the green line, is above the revenue line. Alright, that means the total cost is more than total revenue. That means the profit should be negative. You can see in the lower graph, the profit curve, this semicircular curve, is in the negative section. Alright, if you try to read from the y-axis, here it will come minus something. Alright, then if you increase your output to OQ1, okay, at this, the point corresponding to this is A, At A, total cost is equal to total revenue, that means your profits are 0. You can see it here. At point A, the profits are 0. Okay, and then if you increase your output from OQ1 to further to OQ2, your total revenue keeps on increasing steadily, but your total cost is falling in this section. That means your total revenue is higher than total cost. That means you are getting profits. The gap between total revenue and total cost is increasing gradually as you move from OQ1 to OQ2. You can see the gap here. This gap, it is constantly increasing. Alright, at OQ2 quantity, let's say he is producing now OQ2 quantity. What is his profit? His profit is, let's say, this much. Q2B, or total revenue minus total cost, red line minus blue line, the vertical gap between the two lines, that is the profit. Alright, then what if he increases his output further than OQ2? Let's say he goes from here to here, then his profits start decreasing because the gap between total revenue and total cost curve starts reducing. And at quantity OQ3, same thing happens again. What happened at A point? Total revenue becomes equals to total cost. That means 0 profits. Alright. And if he still goes further, which actually he shouldn't, because total cost is going upwards and total revenue is below total cost. That means if he produce output more than OQ3, his profits are going to go in negative. So just simply look at this graph and tell me what is the optimal output of the producer hypothetical producer we are talking about. From my point of view, the maximum profits are given at OQ2. Maximum profits means TR minus TC, the maximum gap between TR and TC curve gives us a quantity where the gap between total revenue and total cost is maximum, gives us maximum profit. Simple. Alright. Equilibrium condition. Equilibrium is a condition when the producer doesn't want to produce less, doesn't want to produce more. Alright, he wants to produce what he is producing. Equilibrium condition will be when the gap between TR and TC curves will be maximum. Alright, so this is one way of finding the optimal level of output. Price given by the industry, let's say given by the market forces of demand and supply. How much quantity he should produce? He should produce that quantity where the gap between total cost and total revenue and total cost curve is maximum. Alright. Second approach is MR and MC approach. First is MC, that is marginal cost. It is simply additional cost. If you are trying to increase your output by 1 unit, alright, what is the cost that is incurred by you to increase your output by 1 unit? That is marginal cost. That is additional cost of producing additional output. Then is marginal revenue. Again, marginal, just think of it as additional. Additional money you will get by selling 1 more unit of output. Okay. Again, I suggest you should read the cost curve, the cost concept chapter before reading this chapter. First of all, let's see what is there on x-axis and what is there on y-axis. Similarly to the left side graphs, on x-axis there is quantity to be produced by the producer, and on y-axis there are costs and returns or revenue, you can say. Alright, you can see the marginal cost curve is peculiar of U shape. It has been taught to you why it behaves so in the earlier chapter. And marginal revenue curve is a straight line going parallel to the x-axis. As I told you, firms are price takers and quantity adjusters. They cannot affect the price. They'll take the price whatever is given to them by demand and supply forces. At that price they can sell any quantity. That means at OP price they can sell OQ1, OQ2, OQ3, OQ4. That's why this marginal revenue curve will go straight. Alright, let's say he was selling OQ1. What was the price? OP. How much money did he earn? OQ1AP. Alright, let's say if he wants to increase his output by 1 more unit, is it going to affect the price? No, it is not going to affect the price. Let's say if he wants to produce this Q1 dash, alright, even if he is producing OQ1, OQ1 dash, OQ2 and any further, the price will remain the same. That's why the marginal revenue curve is straight. Alright, so what is the equilibrium condition here? How do we know that how much output we should produce? Alright, This is simply given by, let's say you'll answer it by yourself. Let's just see. Just tell me, when the additional cost is greater than additional revenue, what should you do? When you're spending more than you're getting, and I think that at that point you should reduce your output. Alright. Second point, when the additional cost is less than the additional revenue you are getting by selling one more unit, that means you should keep on increasing the output because you are getting more money than you are spending. Alright. When the additional cost is equal to the additional revenue, that is the point where you should stop. But there is a catch. MC is equal to MR. See in the graph there are 2 points A and B. A on the left side, B on the right side. At these 2 points MC is equal to MR. That is, additional cost is equal to additional revenue. Where should you produce? At point A, that is quantity OQ1, or at point B, that is quantity OQ2. Certainly we should produce at point B. Why is it so? Let's say if we produce at OQ1, that is point A, you'll be alright for the point. Okay, but if you see that if you increase your output more than OQ1, your revenue will be greater than the additional revenue will be greater than the cost. That is, it is ये देखना बहुत आसान है कि अगर आप आपका आउटपुट बढ़ा रहे हैं तो आपको एडिशनल पैसा ज़्यादा मिल रहा है और एडिशनल कॉस्ट कम लग रही है. ठीक है. मार्जिनल रेवेन्यू, दैट इज एडिशनल मनी यू आर गेटिंग माइनस marginal cost. That is something positive. You are keeping some money in your pocket by producing more. That means you should produce more. But at point B, do you say that we should produce more than OQ2? I don't think so. We should produce more than OQ2. Let's say if we do produce OQ3, what happens? At OQ3, marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue. That is, additional money you are spending to produce that output is greater than additional money you are getting by selling that output. Okay, जो पैसा लग रहा है आपका ज़्यादा, एडिशनल पैसा लग रहा है, वो एडिशनल पैसा जो आ रहा है उससे ज़्यादा है, कॉस्ट ज़्यादा है एडिशनल रेवेन्यू से. Okay, that's why we should not produce. So in these two cases, how should you write in terms of text? How should you make somebody understand that these are the equilibrium conditions? First equilibrium condition is same. MC is equal to MR. Additional cost should be equal to additional revenue. Second point is very important. Marginal cost curve should cuts MR from below. Should cut MR curve from below. Alright. At A point, marginal cost is cutting MR curve from above. At B point, marginal cost curve is cutting MR curve from below. Alright, you can definitely see what it means, because if it cuts from above and we stop there, we will be fooling ourselves, because अगर हम उससे ज़्यादा आउटपुट लेते हैं तो हमारा फ़ायदा ही था. एंड इफ इट इज़ कटिंग फ्रॉम बिलो और उससे ज़्यादा कटिंग फ्रॉम बिलो एट पॉइंट बी, दैट इज क्वांटिटी OQ2, और इससे ज़्यादा हम आउटपुट लेने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं तो हमारी कॉस्ट ज़्यादा है, रेवेन्यू कम है. दैट मीन्स we are into a loss. Okay, so this is how should you decide to what output should be produced. Let me summarize again. In the last slide, perfect competition market. What is competition? What is perfect competition? What are different types of perfect competition? And in details of perfect competition, I said the price is decided by the industry. That is total demand and total supply. Downward sloping demand curve, upward sloping supply curve will decide the price at the point where they intersect. At that price, a producer can sell any quantity he wants. Alright. What quantity should he sell is to be decided by one thing: profit should be maximum. Profit will be maximum at what quantity? It is found out by TCTR approach, MCMR approach. TCTR, simply when the gap between total revenue curve and total cost curve is maximum, that quantity you should produce. MCMR approach, simple. MC should be equal to MR and MC should cut MR from below. Alright, thank you.